Michael, thank you so much for taking the time with us. Let me start with a very big picture AI question, right? Which camp are you in? Do you think AI is the end of humanity, as a lot of people fear, or is it a boon for the next revolution in human well-being? Which camp are you in?
Yeah, so I'm definitely optimistic about the potential of AI and what it can bring. So I'm not in the camp that it's the end of the existence. I mean, it comes with risks that need to be managed. However, I believe that the potential that it can bring for humanity is huge, and we definitely need to tap into it while controlling the bad sides of it.
Okay, so are you excited, scared, mostly dubious, a bit of all three? What's the emotion that you're feeling right now?
Yeah, I'm definitely excited. I mean, it's a time of massive developments and also changes, and that brings opportunities, and that's what I'm generally excited about. Um, However, with any new technology, there come risks and things that have to be considered. And I mean, some of the concerns that are, or basically the concerns that are out there are valid, and so we need answers to these concerns. But I think this is all doable, and I personally am optimistic about what's going to come, and I believe that it has a huge potential for us if we leverage it well. So if we tame the technology and then put it to good use. And with anything new technology, it can also be put to bad use, and that's what we have to avoid.
So what's your stance on the call for AI regulation overall? How do you think we should handle that?
Yeah. So overall, I'm pro regulation. I mean, I'm against forbidding it, and I don't think that's even realistic. And I mean, the genie is out of the bottle. But we need to find a way where we can ensure that it actually benefits humanity and society, what AI is bringing, and then avoiding all the downsides that come along with it. And so we need a clever way for regulation that still allows us to leverage the potential and benefits that AI brings, but then regulates the things that can go wrong or where AI can be abused, and that's a good thing to do. And it's important thing to do, and where actually more work and more resources should be spent on to find ways to control the downsides of AI or the bad side effects, so to speak.
Got it. What kind of societal changes do you see us facing due to the advent of AI?
Yeah, there are several changes. I mean, one is that this is AI means that many people that are doing manual work in the information side will benefit from this. I mean, you could say they benefit from it because they have to do less manual work. If you put it negatively, you would say they might lose their job or will lose their job. I mean, some jobs will disappear over time that involved very manual information gathering. I mean, if you look at consulting services, right? So where there are many people that are doing internet researches and putting information together. I mean, this is to a large extent easy to replace by ChatGPT. But I would argue that it's not bad for these people that they don't have to do this work anymore. I mean, ChatGPT and others are tools for them to make their work more efficient so that they can spend their time on other things that is valuable. And so I think it's a great development that will free up resources. I mean, in an ideal world, our society will benefit hugely from that because it will free up human resources that people with their minds can now focus on other problems because the machines take away some of the problems that people had to worry about. And I mean, that's a great benefit. And in that sense, it's also not different to developments in the past. I mean, if you look back in history, there has been a time where there were human computers. So people that sat in rooms, in computer rooms, that were doing calculations by hand on a piece of paper. And I mean, they have been replaced by machine computers. But I mean, those machine computers still need to be programmed. They need to be managed, they need to be run, and they need to be developed. And I mean, that's then the potential for these people that do the manual work to learn how to run these machines and use them appropriately. And I mean, and that's a huge opportunity, I believe.
It's actually a really great sort of historical analogy, because the original use of the word computer was attached to a person, not a machine. Yeah. And so, okay, so if we're, let's say we're looking at the replacement of a lot of these jobs, or the enhancement of a lot of these jobs via AI, which sort of sector? You're saying mostly information workers are going to be affected. Is there a particular sector that you think is primed for the most churn, the most replacement, the most enhancement?
Yeah, so I would say especially those kind of information worker jobs that were around, or are today around, information gathering. So just browsing the web and finding information. I mean, ChatGPT basically has incorporated the knowledge of the world, what is accessible in the internet, on the public internet, right? So this is available through ChatGPT in an easy to query manner. And so the need to do manual web researches will drastically go down if people can properly use tools like ChatGPT. I mean, so that's one thing. But then also ChatGPT allows for other things, like also helping with code creation, and also GitHub Autopilot is another such example, which is a tool that increases the efficiency of developers, and is a tool that they helps them to increase and increase their output and simplify their life, because they have to worry about less things. So there I see the most implications. So for on the development side, on the information gathering side, also on the business analyst side, because you can also with AI much easier get insights from data. I mean, if you look at, people have used ChatGPT for as a way to do SQL queries, right? So I mean, they were explaining verbatim to ChatGPT what they want, and ChatGPT would translate it into, now how do I query the data, how do I process the data, and everything. And I mean, that is quite impressive, and I mean, that will definitely make the life of many of these information workers easier.
Yeah, I think developers not having to learn SQL syntax makes all of us happy.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about, I guess, AI in art, in terms of ethics, in terms of generative AI? What's your stance on, the influence that AI is having in arts, and where you think it's going to go?
Yeah, I mean, in art, it offers new ways to do art. But what I'm most interested in is the part of where art translates into real life implications. I mean, let's think of deepfakes and also the implications around it. I mean, this is severe. So with fake news around deepfakes, I mean, right now the videos that you see on YouTube for this, they are fun. I mean, it's like Donald Trump doing a commercial for burgers and all of this stuff. And I mean, you can spot that they are not like fully accurate. So I mean, you can still spot that this isn't the real advertisement. But I mean, this could go terribly wrong if you have. I mean, let's imagining a political leader declaring war on another country, and this is done by a deepfake, and you cannot easily spot the difference. I mean, this could go terribly wrong, and those are the bad sides or downsides of AI that then need to be under control, and where also significant resources need to go into to control that. And so there, I believe AI regulation is very relevant, and it needs to be treated. I mean, there are ways on how similar things are treated today, right? If you look at Geoffrey Hinton, he has a very famous AI researcher. He has suggested to treat deepfakes as a severe offense if they are not marked as AI generated, similar to counterfeiting money. So if you have regulation that says a deepfake has to, or basically an AI generated video, let's put it neutral, an AI generated video has to be marked as being AI generated. And if you don't mark it as AI generated, that's a severe offense because it's like counterfeiting money. And you can go to jail for years for doing that. And I think we need these kind of approaches where people have to be held accountable for the bad things they can do with it, while still allowing the technology and the benefits to flourish. Because I mean, it also has huge benefits that you can create these very accurate videos for all kinds of. It can be for entertainment, can be for arts, for other kinds of things, right? And so we have to, control AI so that it doesn't hurt us, but that we get the benefits from it.
Yeah, I think that especially the combination of deep fakes or generative AI used wrongly, plus social media and social media news is a powerful combo, right? I think if we had generative AI or deep fakes 20 years ago, it wouldn't have mattered much because it wouldn't have gotten out there. But I think the social media aspect and the speed with which basically anything can spread, plus deep fakes, is especially difficult to deal with, right? Especially in places, maybe in governments or countries where the social media news is faster and more prevalent than state news, right? So that's
exactly.
That's definitely a lot.
I fully agree, especially when this then comes together with, basically no clear authorities on information, right? With social media, anyone can post and anyone is trusted / untrusted. So if you don't have clear, verified sources of where this is coming from, I mean, this can really be really bad.
Yeah, I mean, we used to have, when you and I grew up, we had Encyclopedia Britannica that we had to get on a CD or even a hard copy, right? And you had to pay for it, and that was the authentic source of truth. And then we moved on to Wikipedia, which more and more is being distrusted. I mean, it was never trusted as a source of truth, but then it became accepted as a source of universal truth. And now it's being contested in a lot of sort of edge cases, right? Where it's hard to figure out whether that's the truth or it's just being manipulated. And now I think we're in a wonderland where there's no clear source of truth anymore from anybody, right? And that might be a problem. So let's talk about truth, because I think it's apt that you're here to talk to us about that. I mean, your company is in the sort of the truth business, right? In some sort of sense. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do and what got you started?
Yeah. So we at Apheris are building a product that helps parties that have distributed and very sensitive data to make that accessible for machine learning computations. So think of health data. Health data is very distributed. So you have individual hospitals or research sites that have the data and that want to control access to it and what happens with it. But this data is hugely beneficial for developing new drugs or understanding disease progression. So for pharmaceutical applications and also research, this would be hugely valuable to have access to this data and be able to leverage it for computations. And this is where we come in at Apheris. Our product allows for exactly that, to empower the people that have data, which we call data custodians, to control what they allow on their data, what happens with their data, while making it available for machine learning access, and thereby empowering pharmaceutical companies or other companies to do this kind of research and do this kind of drug development, drug discovery processes on this data. And that's what we do. And we ensure that all of these computations run in a governed way so that the custodian at the hospital has full control over what happens with their data And through computational governance, as we call it, they can control what exactly is happening. So what exactly they want to allow, whom they want to allow it to, and therefore be fully in charge of what they're opening up here on their data, while still contributing and benefiting from the opportunities that come from that.
So, I mean, prime example, like a brand new sort of job title that didn't exist 10 years ago or has been sort of developing over time. But, data custodian is not something that was a thing when, you and I got out of school and were looking for our first jobs. And I think now it is a job in itself, understanding the legal, personal ramifications of data and how it can be used in a specific, research setting. That's something that's a brand new job, right? That didn't exist before the advent of AI.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, historically, this is coming from the whole data management side. And then there has always been the question of what data processing is allowed, just generally speaking. But then now there are these AI models coming in. And then it's a question, okay, like what kind of processing is this AI model now? Like what does it do? What implications are there? And so that's a new world opening up for these people that come from the data processing or data protection side. And this is where we also come in with our product and help these personas, these people, to understand the ramifications and implications of now running particular AI models. So what does this mean for me as a custodian? So what is the harm? What are the implications? What do I have to take special care of? And this is where we help the custodian persona to basically go into this new world and allow AI, but fully understand and control what happens then with their data.
Right. Yeah, that's exciting. So what paint the picture for someone who's, at one of these, I would say probably your main customer base is regulated industries, right? So healthcare, insurance, defense, a lot of where data has a certain set of value and is risky to allow insight into. For someone in that space who's currently using AI, can you paint us a little bit of the picture of what is their world currently looks like now, and what does it look like after they've implemented your product? What's the difference really?
So the difference is, if you look at the world today, let's look at healthcare. So let's say I'm a custodian at a hospital, and I mean there are clinical trials running in my hospital, and also research running for particular diseases. And so I, as a custodian, am in charge of collecting that data. So I have this data collected in a central place, but then it's a question what to do with this data beyond the clinical trial or the initial research that was done. And let's say a pharma company comes and says, yeah, we would like to use this data for our research. And I mean, that means that I, as the custodian of this hospital, have to think about, okay, like what do I want to allow? What implications does this have? Like what even do they want to run with that? How will they use this? And then also on the technical side, where will they even run this? How will they give me the computation that I should run? How will they get the results? And the current world for this is very manual. I mean, people are sending around scripts via email, and this is then manually executed, and then results are returned. But and this is a very frictionful environment, because I mean you have manual processes, many things you have to manually clarify, and this is where we come in and have standardized this with our product, because our product is then what we call the Apheris Compute Gateway is deployed at the hospital, and it allows for computations to run on that hospital environment. So it's a standardized piece that allows for controlling what computations come in, and the custodian can then control what happens on their data, and also choose what computations to allow, whom to allow it to, and therefore be fully in charge. And then this is coupled with AI models that have been vetted and reviewed and also assessed by us. So we provide AI models that come with a card of information saying, okay, these are the privacy implications or the security implications of this. This is what you should think about when you run this model. And this is then a help to the custodian to reason about this, like what they should do here, how they want to allow it and not. And so we take care of this part, of the computational governance part, and then also of the whole setup and mechanics of now running this computation, returning the results, making sure everything is traceable, that auditability is ensured. And that's the product value that we bring in here. So overall, with that, we're making such collaborations between pharma and hospital, or also in other industries. I mean, you have similar patterns in other industries, much easier because we provide standardized approaches and a standardized product that can solve this.
So it's an on-prem system where you would install this locally, or let's say you would. Is it cloud? Could it be cloud-based as well, or do you have a SaaS, product for smaller users as well?
So our product is generic where you deploy it. So you can deploy it in on-prem environments. I mean, this is what we see with European hospitals, for example. And then you can also deploy it in cloud environments. I mean, this is also what we see. And I mean, some hospitals are more open to cloud deployments, some prefer on-prem deployments. So both is possible. And so we have flexibility on the deployment side. And then they have this compute gateway deployed in their environment. They register the data to it. They specify who should be allowed to run which computations on the data, and then they are good to go. And then on the other side, for the researcher on the pharmaceutical side, for example, we provide then a command line interface where they can just submit their computations to run on that.
Got it. Wow, exciting. So can you give us some insight maybe into a success or a case study or something that you've experienced with one of your clients? I don't know if you can name names because that's somewhat hard sometimes, but some kind of story that would help people understand the benefits.
Yeah, definitely. So I can't give names, unfortunately, but we have several top 10 pharma companies as our customers. And what they are interested in is for the whole real world data space, to run studies on data that is residing in hospitals and with hospitals. So that data has been gathered in hospitals about patients, about a particular type of disease. So think of a pharma that is interested from a specific therapeutic area in particular diseases, where they want to understand disease progression and how treatment and also how their drugs affect patients, right? I mean, this is, for example, one question that pharmaceutical companies have. Once we put out a drug to usage, how is basically once people apply it, how is that influencing their lives, for example? I mean, that's one of the questions of pharma, but also sometimes also more fundamentally on the research side, like how does disease progression even work? So if people have these indicators, how does the disease then go on for particular diseases? And then on the other hand side, there are these hospitals that work with this particular disease type and do research on it. And there are principal investigators, professors in these hospitals that do this kind of research, and they have this data. And then our product allows to bring the both sides together and allows to run these kind of analyses that pharma wants to do. So with the setup that there is different hospitals and also pharmaceuticals, we come in and we deploy our product, and then the pharmaceutical can run their analyses on the hospital data, while the hospitals and the custodians there are in full control over what happens with their data. And the pharmaceutical party still gets the ability to run analyses on this data.
So are we, are we there yet? I just don't know from a technical standpoint. I know there's a lot of research activity involved in sort of zero knowledge proofs and the ability to run models in AI on data without leaking any actual information about the data. Is that real? Are we seeing this seep into actual products today, or is that still in the research phase?
Yeah, definitely. So there are definitely these kind of technologies, broadly summarized as privacy enhancing technologies that can be leveraged to help mitigate risks along this whole chain. And this is what we naturally support. So different privacy enhancing technologies can be leveraged in our product, and we have built-in modules for that. And one simple example is that when you do an analysis on the data, you want to ensure that at least a certain amount of patients is in that analysis, so that you don't overfit to particular patients. And we refer to these as controls broadly, and we have several of these controls in place. So controls on what data is going into the analysis, controls on what data is returned, also controls on what is actually in the results that are returned to the pharmaceutical company. Because if you have a machine learning model that you train on data that then overfits to particular data, I mean, you can construct the tags that allow to steal the data, right? By overfitting the model purposely, on purpose, to the data, you can take out the underlying data. And so there are these attacks which are called reconstruction attacks, where you can essentially learn more about the underlying training data than you are supposed to learn. And there are ways to mitigate this. So where you have assessments of the results before they are returned to check how high is the risk that actually something is in that trained model that shouldn't be in there. And
So you could
that
actually perform sort of pre-analysis before the custodian actually opens up the data to a partner. You could actually perform some analysis on it in order to test out your settings and making sure that as little as possible of your data leaks out.
Yeah, exactly. So throughout the journey, either before the computations are launched in the data or after the computations are launched, but before the results are returned, and this is where you can apply these controls, these test checks, and that's what we do with our product. And so this is where we help the custodian through these controls to stay in control over what leaves their premises, and also get assurances on like what is happening at which stage of such a machine learning pipeline.
Got it. Okay, so the models actually are running on-prem in the sort of the customer's control, and so the data wouldn't leak out unless they actually allow it to leak out, because you could see the results, you could check, do your final checks, and then only then authorize the results out. Interesting.
Yeah, in a simplified way, yes. I mean, with a machine learning model, it can be quite complex because I mean you have just float numbers as model weights in a machine learning model, right? So you have to think about what is now encoded in this. And I mean, yes, there are very simple checks where you just check, okay, is there an entry from the source data in this? But I mean, this will only go so far, right? And then you have more advanced checks where you actually check, okay, like what can the model actually do now? Or basically where you check for model inversion or membership inference attacks, that's how they are called, and assess the likelihood of it.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot. One of the main problems that I see with this whole job creation portion of the argument, which says, AI will, yes, render some jobs obsolete, but it will create some better jobs. As and there's nothing specific about AI. It's every new technology does this, but it does it in a different way, where computers render some jobs obsolete, and now you need people to build and design computers. Great, but I think the problem with AI is the type of jobs that are getting created are going to be very statistical oriented, right? And our success, I think, as a nation or cross nation, even then, to teach statistics and to sort of teach math overall, I would say is pretty poor. And the jobs that are going to be created are all for people that are going to need to understand these fundamental, math and statistics. Do you see any way out of that? Is that just irrational fear on my part?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. So I would say for those people that build ML and AI systems, so machine learning engineers, I mean, yes, for them, a very good understanding of statistics and math is very important. But I mean, there are people that build these models, for example, foundational models, and then there are people that are using and applying them. And I mean, for them, it's much less of a need because it's an existing building block, these foundational models, which you take and then apply in a different context. And then, I mean, there is this new job that has emerged of being a prompt engineer, right? So someone that can just write smart prompts to ChatGPT. And I mean, you don't need a lot of stats background for this. I mean, you need, it's basically another query language. I mean, in the past, there was the SQL query language for querying database systems, right? And now it's another type of querying system, so to speak. And so you need, and then there are all these tools that are built on top of financial or foundational models, which also make it easier, that package AI so that you can just use it for your particular business case. And so if you're a downstream user, you will maybe not even realize that there is an AI under the hood, but you're working on your computer and you get a suggestion that will simplify your life on what you're typing right now or on what you're searching for. And you may not even notice that this is generated through AI, but at this particular point in time, it will make your life a bit more efficient. And then because you find information more easily, because some text is auto-generated, and you just go with that. And then you need to know all the specifics about how it actually works.
So maybe an irrational fear on my part.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one which is important. I mean, generally, I would wish that the education in stats and math and everything and STEM in general would be good so that people understand what the machines are doing. Because if you have an understanding of what the machines are doing, what they're capable of, I mean, that is generally helpful to alleviate fears, but also understand what can go wrong with these machines, right? Because you cannot fully trust these machines. You still have to apply your due diligence in some of the things that come out of it. I mean, ChatGPT is hallucinating. And then there are some examples where actually bad results come out of these models. I mean, they are suppressed in ChatGPT, but in other models, they are not suppressed, where you have information that can go terribly wrong if it comes into the wrong hands. And so, yeah, but that's a separate story.
So what prompted you to start Apheris, and sort of, can you give us a little bit of background into the genesis story of your company?
Yeah, definitely. So I have a background in physics and did a PhD working on a numerical simulation and machine learning data science problem. And so I worked on the computer science side there as well. And I realized that I want to put this to practice very early on. And so research wasn't for me. And so I worked for a large consulting company where I realized, okay, people are actually having a huge issue of taking known information in research and putting it into practice in the business world. And then I founded a company with my co-founder and then realized, well, actually data accessibility is a huge issue, and realized that. And then we shut down this other startup and founded Apheris with exactly the goal to address that. So making sure that the data that is very sensitive and locked away and not accessible for these types of analyses that are of huge benefit if done right and if done well, and make it possible that one can leverage these data sets. So that's what we started out with, that we have a product that can make this possible, that can protect the data and make sure that the data custodian is always in control, always knows what's going on with the data, the privacy of the data is protected and ensured, and still these analyses can be conducted. And that's what we're set out to do, and that's what we're doing.
That's interesting. So it's coming from an academic interest, so your PhD sort of experience, and applying that to actual research more so than. Okay, got it. Makes sense. Yeah, interesting. Is there, I think, is there maybe a way out of this? I think that there's a big problem in science publication these days. There's a replication crisis. There's a data authenticity crisis that we don't like to talk about. There's all sorts of issues with the actual scientific model, as we're seeing, right? In terms of publication, is there maybe a way out of this through, something like Apheris for science in general? You think there's maybe some application there of AI, or the control and authentication of data, right, for science overall? Have you given that any thought at all?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a great question. I mean, what is generally the case with publications is that you have to also publish your source data of the analysis, or you at least have to make it available to the reviewers in the peer review process. And I mean, that can be a problem if the data is very sensitive, or if it's confidential information of companies, right? So for pharmaceutical companies, some of their data is their crown jewels on particular molecular structures, protein structures, and everything. And so this is very sensitive data. But if this could be unlocked for research, I mean, that would be a huge opportunity to advance research. And those are actually also cases that we are working on, where multiple pharmaceutical companies have this treasure trove of data, but I mean, they wouldn't normally make it available for research purposes. And so still there is an interest in getting access to the data and leveraging the latest insights from science on new model developments and everything, together with this very sensitive data. And this is where our product can help launch these and run these experiments. So to run latest science AI models on this very sensitive proprietary data, to get a model that can then be published while still protecting the proprietary data itself of the parties that contributed, and through an audit trail and a traceability of the whole process across the system. I mean, we can also provide the assurance that what is run is actually what is supposed to run, and also the data is the data that is supposed to be there. And so we can provide further evidence that this is actually the stuff that is supposed to happen, and the stuff that is supposed to be there. And this can potentially help with building credibility towards peer review processes, that this is actually a legit thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to me, the hope when I see companies like yours who are dealing with trust and privacy of data, to me, the future seems like it's going in a direction where we might actually unsilo all this data at some point in time, right? Or at least get partial access to this treasure trove of data that everybody's got siloed right now. We're all connected, we're all living in our own little data world where nobody wants to share. And somehow I think we're heading towards a direction with solutions like yours where at some point we might be able to partially share, at least, or things that we might be able to communally benefit, right? So there's great hope there, I think.
Yeah, indeed. I fully agree.
Yeah. Great. I want to thank you for your time. I know, CTOs are busy people, and you're, a founder as well. So thank you so much for your time. And we look forward to, hearing more about Apheris. Is there any maybe closing remarks on your end? Any upcoming technologies or product features coming in 2024 that you're working on that you want to, maybe give us a peek into?
Yeah, thank you. So there's definitely many exciting things happening in the broader space. I mean, one key thing that I'm interested in is the EU AI Act. So that is a first set of AI regulation that's coming. I mean, it's currently in the making and it will come at some point. But I mean, there's lots of interesting things happening in this side. And also there has been also from the US president a statement on AI regulation, an executive order, actually, and this is also interesting development. So all of this shows that the bad sides of AI are, will be controlled, and there are mechanisms in place to control that. And so that's a very exciting time because that coincides very well with what we're doing with Apheris, with our product, to help then on the computational governance side to control what is happening on data, what kind of machine learning models are executed, what is in this machine learning model that is sensitive. And we're releasing a new product version over the next couple of months where we are doubling down on this direction. So where we will provide more of this computational governance and more of the ways to empower custodians to reason about the type of analysis and the type of machine learning model that they are running on their data to support what is coming with the EU AI Act. I mean, the custodian will evolve from protecting the data to having to work with the EU AI Act and other AI regulation. And that's what we will support with upcoming product releases. And that's what I'm very excited about. I mean, it's a time of many new exciting developments while applying controls to the potential downsides of this new technology. And that's a very exciting time. And we have a part of the solution for this, hopefully, with our product.
Great. Maybe one. I don't expect you to actually have a good answer for this. I don't expect anyone to have a positive answer for this, but do you think, a personality out there or a news media source that you think actually understands AI and that we should be looking to for guidance and advice? Anybody that stands out as somebody you think really understand what's going on?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are many prominent AI researchers. I mean, there are very prominent voices that are definitely authorities in the field, and many that are very relevant. I'd now point out Jeffrey Hinton, who was formerly with Google and then left Google to focus on making it more aware of what's going on with AI now outside of Google. And I mean, he's a great authoritative voice to my mind. And to my mind, also, he has a balanced view on what is possible and what should be constrained about AI. And so, I mean, I admire him for his contribution and also what he's doing lately in giving the overview on what's happening. And I mean, what I particularly like is that he highlights the benefits that AI can bring for drug discovery, for materials, for other types of healthcare applications, while also stressing that we have to control the downsides and have to invest more into controlling the bad side effects of AI and managing them. And then we have to see what the future brings. And I mean, I'm optimistic about the future, but definitely we need to invest resources and money into controlling what can happen with AI.
Got it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. I'll check out, info coming from him, and look forward to, your featured showcase on Spotlight. It's coming out January 15th, and then we'll email you and send you all the news. Appreciate your time, Michael.